Morning, everyone.
Morning, Honorable Vilakazi.
How are you this morning?
I'm good, sir.
Okay. Did you manage to get some
Morning,
rest
morning, morning.
up until late last night on our call?
Yes, yes, now I managed. Thank you, Mr.
Are
Honorable.
you rested?
I think so.
Oh, you'll find out as the day goes.
Yes.
All right. Well, wish you a good one.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, honorable members, everybody present. I believe we are sufficient.
Recording in progress.
To continue. Let me welcome all the members and also the officer of the AGSA, in particular the AG, Ms. Maluleki, and the DAG, Mr. Choke, National Treasury. That's with us today, the Accountant General, Mr. Khan, Ms. Mare, and Ms. Lapaskachny. Also, all the committee support staff and everybody else, welcome to this meeting of the Standing Committee on the Auditor-General. We have a full agenda. We have limited time as there is mini plenaries taking place later this morning, and we will endeavor to finish this meeting before the mini plenaries start. But we have important work to engage on and to consider. So let's have a fruitful meeting, and thank you very much for everybody's attendance. Honourable members, let's move to apologies. Zubaida, can we note the apologies received?
Good morning, Chairperson. Thank you. We've received 3 apologies from Honorable Bila, Honorable Beasley, and Honorable Bateman, sir. And then we have 9 confirmations. So we have a quorum. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Zubaida. Honourable members, we can then move to the adoption of minutes. If you would flood those minutes for us, Zubaida, it's the minutes of the 11th of July that we did not adopt last week. If we can adopt it today, and then last week's minutes we will adopt in our next meeting together with today's minutes. It was circulated well in advance, so I won't go through it at length, but we can look at page 1. If there's any corrections, you are most welcome to raise your hand. Page 1 is just the attendance. Page 2. Page 3. Four. 5. 6. 7. 8. And 9 is the end of the meeting. Any corrections? Could I have a mover for the adoption of the minutes? Honourable Zabrati.
Thank you, Chairperson. Morning to yourself and to all guests on the call. Chairperson, I just wish, before I move for the adoption of the minutes did record a letter be sent by the Chairperson to Mr. Mabaso. I would like to check firstly if the letter has been sent off, and I also move for the adoption of these minutes. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Zabrati. That letter has been sent, was sent, when we decided that, yes.
Thank you.
Then we do have a mover for the adoption. Is there a seconder? Any taker?
Good morning, Chair.
Honourable Mofokeng.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to honourable members, AG and the team and Treasury. Chairperson, I'm seconding the adoption of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Mofokeng. To appreciate that, then there's no objections to the adoption, and those minutes are then adopted. It's better if you can flood the agenda for the meeting. We have now already adopted the minutes. We then have the item of the follow-up meeting with National Treasury. Members would remember that we had a meeting almost a year ago with National Treasury on the outstanding debt and the funding of the AGSA. And it was then resolved and resolution adopted by the National Assembly that there should be regular updates from National Treasury to SCOAC on this matter. We have been battling to secure a meeting between our schedule, committee schedule, and National Treasury's availability. So we are thankful that we can have this meeting today with National Treasury. We then have the Basel complaints, where we have to make a decision on and resolve on that issue. And then the report back on the joint oversight, the consideration of that oversight report, because it's a joint meeting, or was a joint oversight. And then that is the items on the agenda. Is there a mover for the adoption of the agenda as put? Honorable Sprati.
Chairperson, I move for the adoption of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seconder.
Chairperson, I second the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you, Honorable Mwali. Appreciate. Then that is our agenda. And without any delay, we can then move to the item of the National Treasury report back and follow up. So I will welcome Mr. Khan, Accountant General, to take us through that presentation. It was circulated, but I must say that we only received that presentation yesterday. That does not sit very well with me, I must say, because that does not allow for members to really scrutinize and go through the contents of such a briefing, which is quite lengthy. Yeah, I'm not very happy with that, Mr. Khan, but I do understand circumstances. As I said, we are pressed for time, so I will ask that you don't go through the presentation word for word, but that you highlight the most important parts, and especially with regards to the follow-up with regards to what we discussed in the previous meeting and the developments that took place since then, in terms of where we stand with outstanding debt and the interventions by National Treasury. But Mr. Khan, you are most welcome. Thank you very much.
Greetings, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable members of the Standing Committee on the Auditor-General, to the Auditor-General, Ms. Kahima Luleke, as well as to the Deputy AG, Mr. Chauke. Chairperson, allow me to let me start by just apologizing for the delay. All presentations generally to Parliament needs to go through a quality assurance process within the department, and I think that's something that have delayed the submission of the presentations. But Chairperson, this is something we will endeavour to improve on going forward, and really to thank you and the committee for the invitation this morning. Honourable Chair, I'm accompanied by Ms. Karen Marie, who is in the Office of the Accountant General, as well as Lizette Labus-Hafni, and two of our colleagues from the Parliament liaison team, Cindy August, as well as Lindile Patwa. Chair, I do know we have 15 minutes, so I will really talk to the presentation and really just elevate the key points in this regard. This is really the outline of the presentation, which sets out the interventions by the National Treasury team. We provide an overview of the AGSA's debt book. This is a part of the work that the team has been working with the Auditor General's office on. We also then provide some of the analysis that the Treasury team has done on some of the numbers, as well as the debt book. And then obviously we'll touch on briefly on the AGSA requests to National Treasury. And then there's some evaluations being done, but more importantly, we'll really go and zoom into the conclusions and recommendations on how we move forward. Just a recap, honorable members, on the 11th of October 2024, National Treasury as well as the Auditor-General appeared before SCOAG. And one of the key messages at that time was that there is merit in the AGSA continuing in its current funding model. It allows for the Auditor-General to be legally and financially independent. And I think that's quite a key feature of their constitutional independence. And this is quite important. Just to also indicate that since that meeting, there's been regular meetings with the Auditor General, and there has been progress in this regard. Moving on to the next slide, and really since December 2024, the National Treasury has written to all 257 municipalities with outstanding debt, regardless of whether it was current or due. And really, this was the kickstart of this journey on which eventually you'll see has resulted in National Treasury enforcing Section 2162 of the Constitution. This letter essentially notified municipalities that if they don't make or take the appropriate steps, National Treasury will invoke Section 2162 of the Constitution with the intention of stopping the equitable share. We've seen with this initiative already that already in the month of December, that message has already seen municipalities paying the Auditor General in the tune of 460 million rand. This is just a quick snapshot since our last meeting. The following letters have been issued from the National Treasury: 257 official letters issued, 102 letters issued from the Director General, as well as 22 ministerial letters issued to the municipalities defaulting on third-party payments, which included the Auditor General, SARS, and the pension funds. This is really just to indicate the intervention that National Treasury has taken under Section 2162 of the Constitution. What we've included in this particular slide, in addition to what I've indicated previously, is that there is an underlying issue which we see in most of the municipalities. You'll see in the first bullet or the first sub-bullet that we've already been engaging many municipalities on unfunded budgets, because this is really the root cause in municipalities not being able to pay their creditors timelessly, or not being able to deliver important services as required. And the importance of having funded budgets is quite a key part of any budget system. And there's a lot of work behind the scenes, especially from the Intergovernmental Relations team in the National Treasury on dealing with this particular matter. Subsequent to these letters being issued, the Auditor General then provided National Treasury with a list of municipalities that have either not paid or have not entered into the payment arrangements as required by the letters that Treasury issued. The National Treasury team then obtained approval from the Minister of Finance to withhold March 2025 funds from municipalities. And this is the local government equitable share, which we've indicated will be stopped and only released on condition that the first installment to be released will be strictly used to pay respective creditors. This condition will only be considered fulfilled until the municipality provides evidence in the form of proof of payment. Should this condition not be met, then the second installment of the equitable share will not be released, or will be released with certain conditions. Furthermore, the municipality will be required to submit a valid repayment agreement between the municipality and the creditors, which include the Auditor General. The National Treasury also undertook to report to SCOAG and the Speaker of Parliament on these interventions and any measures needed in the second quarter of this financial year. just in terms of the overview of the payments that or the success of these interventions, we've seen that immediately when National Treasury invoked that, there was payments in the region of 26 or 25.2 million rand that immediately was paid to the Auditor-General, and we've seen that these payments, whilst they have come through, and there's a slide that in the slide deck which will show that whilst we're seeing there's been improvement, there are other areas that has increased, which is a reason for concern. This slide really unpacks the payment arrangements that has been entered to with the Auditor-General in the region of 126.2 million. And already we can see some traction with regard to the March 2026 withholding of the equitable share. This slide is really a possibly one of the success factors that we've seen over the interventions jointly between National Treasury and the Auditor-General. This is a matter in which the Auditor-General took these municipalities of the Northern Cape to court for a settlement of for an order of 42.6 million. There was also an out-of-court agreement of 233 million. And this was really a key success story out of these many interventions. And I think the Auditor-General has done really relatively well, in fact, very well, in really obtaining and agreeing this arrangement with the Northern Cape Provincial Treasury. And this really has some key features in terms of Section 23(5) of the Public Audit Act. Just in terms of the overview of the debt book, we've seen between March and July, the debt book has increased from 1.3 billion to 1.8 billion. You'll see that there's been some increases in the debt book of provincial government as well as the other debtors book. But I think a key feature which shows a success of the joint interventions of National Treasury and the Auditor-General was that the local government debt has decreased from 534 million in March to 437 million in July. This is really an overview which the team has provided an analysis. In the 1.8 billion rand outstanding debt at the end of July, there's about just over 1 billion rand of invoices that are current. There was about 900 million that was billed in July and 188 million in June. The outstanding debt of local government I've spoken to, and that's really one of the key success factors over the last few months. Included in the long outstanding debt is 183 million rand owed to some entities that are either in liquidation or under business rescue, and these are mainly those debtors that's in the state-owned company space. And we do have a slide that really goes into this in a lot more detail. This is the state-owned companies overview. Included in these balance are also ones that are not currently under the radar of not paying, but just to provide the committee a collective view. So this also provides entities such as DBSA, LNT, as well as PRASA. And obviously, this part of it, whilst we've been engaging institutions like Denel quite extensively over the last few months. There was a payment arrangement that was entered by Denel. They have defaulted, but they have committed seeing that payment arrangement out with the Auditor General. Just in terms of those state-owned companies, there is roughly around 40 million rand of them which are under liquidation. This includes that 40 million rand includes both capital and interest, and those include South African Express Airways, Palcom, Autopax, and Mango Airlines. This is the one in which we've recommended to the Auditor General that they will have to unfortunately write them off. They will have to engage the liquidation process, and in any amounts that's not recovered through the liquidation process will have to be written off. What we've also indicated on the slide is that even with those amounts being written off, they did form part of the impairment provision or budget, as well as the impairment provision on the financial statements, and there are sufficient reserves to write these off, which will not have a negative or significant impact on the surplus of the Auditor General. This is just a slide that goes into a bit more detail. Those under business rescue, which is Denel and the South African Post Office, both SAPO and Autopax settled the invoice or have agreed to settle the invoice post the business rescue process, respectively. The discussions are ongoing, and we have been engaging these state-owned companies on a regular basis. As indicated, Denel, after entering into this payment arrangement, have defaulted, but they've committed to settle the outstanding. Chair, as indicated, as part of the overall request and part of the engagements which we have on a regular basis with the Auditor General, one of the key things is that AG has asked us to continue withholding the equitable share for defaulting municipalities, and Treasury is very much in support of this, and the Intergovernmental Relations team has now been part of this process over the last few months, and we will be invoking this should we not see an improvement in those municipalities that have defaulted. Similarly, there has been this engagement around Section 23(5). We've been quite clear with the Auditor General that due to the constrained fiscal environment, National Treasury at this point cannot really support this. There's been a request around ring-fencing those that are under liquidation. Unfortunately, because of the liquidation process that's currently being in process, Treasury cannot then support or ring-fence these debtors or pay the Auditor General for these debts. Chair, there is a request around retention. This is an ongoing discussion. The 2024-25 audited results have not yet been released by the Auditor General, and once this has been released, there will be formal engagements with the Auditor General in that regard, and also with regard to the 2026-2027 budget. That consultation, as required by the Public Audit Act, will still need to happen. The next few slides just really give you a snapshot, Chairperson and honourable members, of the support by National Treasury, both in terms of the 1% fee, as well as the implementation of the Act, which is around the material irregularities. This is in the region of 824 million rand. In addition to that, the Auditor General has requested the retention of the surplus funds for the last few years, and you can see this is quite a sizable amount. If you look, for example, the last 2 financial years in which the Auditor General surplus has exceeded the budgeted surplus by more than 80%, and and these surpluses have been retained by the Auditor General. Just in terms of the Treasury team, doing an analysis of the impairments. The Treasury, the Auditor-General does budget for impairments on an annual basis. And we've seen that over the last few years, the actuals have actually exceeded the budget. So this is a part which really needs to be reviewed by the Auditor-General's office, unless there is an indication that there is an improvement in the debt collection on the horizon, which could then indicate that you may budget a lower amount. In terms of the debtors, in terms of what was budgeted versus actual, we can see that the budget has been significantly lower over the last 3 financial years, and this is something that I think as going forward, hopefully with the interventions, we can see much closer alignment between actual and budget. But also from a budgeting perspective, this would possibly need to be reviewed in light of the changing economic conditions, but also really considering the risk profiles of the debtors book of the Auditor-General. This slide looked at the last 2 financial years and just provided an analysis of some of the key indicators which we thought is important and worth elevating to the committee. We've seen revenue consistently performing above budget, between 5 to 6% in the last 2 financial years. The direct audit costs, there was overspending in both those years, between 6 and 12%. The other income that has just consistently overperformed, whilst we've seen the overheads, which is the operating expenditure, there's been underperformance in those years. We've seen in 22-23 there was underspending of 27%, and that has improved to 7% in the 23-24 financial years. A key indicator which we thought it's important to elevate is really that when you look at the budgeted bank and cash, the Auditor-General is actually in quite a healthy position. In the 23-24 financial year, the budgeted bank and cash balance was 236.9 million, and we've seen that they had at the end of that financial year a cash balance of 1.1 billion, which shows strong liquidity from this part of the Auditor-General. Just a recap from a previous discussion we had. Section 23(1) of the Public Audit Act requires the Auditor-General determines the basis for the calculation of the audit fees to be recovered from auditees in respect of the audit referred to in Section 11, after having consulted both the Standing Committee of the Auditor-General and the National Treasury. So really what this is a legal requirement for this consultation to take place. But within this context, there's also a growing call from auditees that audit fees are too high, and this has also been raised with the Auditor-General. And we've seen in some of the smaller municipalities, they've indicated that the rising audit costs has also had an impact on their service delivery potential. This is just an analysis of the budgeted revenue over the last few years. Between 23-24 to 24-25, there's been an increase of just around 13%, and then between 24-25 to the current financial year, just in terms of budget, an increase in 7.2%. And I think this is what highlighting that whilst there's increase in the Auditor-General's revenue budget, which we understand that from a funding model, this needs to be recovered from auditees. This is higher than the growth in departmental budgets, and obviously national, provincial, and municipal budgets continue to be constrained as they struggle to manage costs. In terms of 23.1 of the public audit, what is missing in this process? And this is quite an important part of what needs to happen in order for all parties, I think both the Standing Committee as well as the National Treasury and the Auditor-General to possibly improve or to formalize going forward. National Treasury remains committed to supporting the Auditor-General and the Standing Committee in strengthening public financial accountability. In this spirit, we note that the consultation required under Section 23.1 of the Public Audit Act did not take place with the National Treasury. We raised this matter to reinforce the importance of procedural compliance and to support the Auditor General's mandate through appropriate engagement. And given the constrained fiscal environment and the financial pressures facing many auditees, National Treasury's input is essential to ensure that the audit fees are both reasonable and affordable, and they do not inadvertently compromise service delivery. And we really look forward to working collaboratively with the Auditor General and the Standing Committee to strengthen this process going forward. Chair, as I conclude, just in terms of conclusion and recommendations, National Treasury's support to the Auditor General in terms of budget support and the further engagement and consultations, this will take place and will continue. In terms of some of the collaborative efforts, the further withholding, which I've already indicated, the combined interventions, which include using the equitable share withholding mechanism, as well as the AGSA legal processes to really enforce compliance, to prioritize high-risk municipalities, and to follow up as required on those municipalities who even where there is payment arrangements or they have not adhered to. And I think these are some of the mechanisms which we will work with the Auditor General to improve, so that as there are follow-ups from the Intergovernmental Relations Unit, we do see success in these interventions. Agreement reached with the Auditor General really to strengthen collaboration. We've recommended the write-offs for those institutions that are in liquidations. We've been advised that government cannot bypass insolvency law to settle creditor claims directly. And also, we've been advised that this is not allowed under the PFMA as well as the Treasury regulations. A key discussion that we've had with them recently was to really support the initiatives by the National Treasury's Intergovernmental Unit in relation to municipal finance units, improving budgeting for audit costs. And the key feature of this discussion was that as we move forward, the Auditor General will provide the budget for all these municipalities, so that when the National Treasury IGR team reviews the budget, they can also then ensure that the Auditor General's fees are budgeted for those as well. Chair, I think this may be the last slide. Really, just to recommend to SCOAG to note the extensive work undertaken by the National Treasury to assist the Auditor General in collecting outstanding debt, and to support the continued collaboration to ensure the sustainability and the independence of the Auditor General. Chair, yes, that is the last time. And to really thank you for the time this morning, Kyaliboka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khan, and let me welcome the presentation and also the progress that has been made since our last engagement. I think it should be welcomed and applauded by the committee. Honourable members, I'm going to give you an opportunity to engage and ask questions for clarity and engage with National Treasury on this presentation. You can just indicate with your hands on the platform, and I'll give you an opportunity. I note the Honourable Subrati Honorable Segrati.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning once again. Let me also welcome the presentation and the progressive presentation that we've received. And firstly, to highlight, Chairperson, that I do believe that the time we've allocated to engage this discussion is insufficient. It has been a key priority of SCOAG to engage on the funding challenges of AGSA, and I think to allocate 15 minutes and thereafter maybe 10 minutes for engagement is insufficient and not in accordance with the importance of this. So I wish to note that for future engagements, I do believe that some of the slides were rushed and we would have wanted Mr. Khan to spend more time. For example, the last slide on agenda item number 2, I didn't quite capture it. So I think that is more because he was trying to keep to the time. I want to welcome the progress that has been made. And I was very chuffed by the 460 million rand that was recovered in December 2024 following the intervention of National Treasury. Chairperson, I just wanted to just emphasize the point that was made maybe is why did that consultation not take place between AGSA and National Treasury? I think there's two elements. One is the element of assisting AGSA to recover the funds. What we have seen here and we've received as SCOAG is that this collaborative relationship between NT's intervention is assisting AGSA, and we welcome that, and we really truly welcome that. So we want to, I want to record that there is progress. What is concerning is an item that is concerning regarding AGSA. We need to note that when AGSA comes before us, one is the element of the budget. The budget variances, both in terms of projected revenue, actual revenue, projected bank balances, actual bank balances, is phenomenal. And needless to say, AGSA is going to want approval of the surpluses to be retained. And I think the critical thing is, if I understand the Act correctly, there is a mandatory requirement that AGSA and National Treasury have a conversation around the value or the review of audit fees. What we're seeing coming through here is these huge surpluses, and the point is valid and it must be noted. Are we now taking away fees that is destined for service delivery to fund the AGSA? Then we really need to ask the question that AGSA's fees must be in line. It is a topic for another discussion, but I wish to deposit this. My concern that is the AGSA overcharging fees as demonstrated in the under budgeting and the surpluses that we're seeing. Chairperson, I'll pause there because of being mindful of the time on our agenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Segrati. Honorable Montana.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, and good morning to colleagues. Good morning to the Auditor-General, Accountant General, and everyone. Chair, I just want to raise two quick things. The first one, of course, is to note the collaboration between the two offices, and I think it's something that we encourage and support. The second thing I want to raise, Chair, is to caution the approach about withholding, funding. I think that the equitable share, and I think that we need to caution that very strongly. That we need to find other ways. Chair, the third one I think is being touched by the previous speaker, my brother. I think that we need to look at these fees. And as the presentation was, the Accountant General was taking us through, there's no doubt in my mind that we need to start to look deeper as a standing committee on the fees. And I ask myself, for example, the Auditor General is a Chapter 9 institution. The agreement that this model, this funding model for the AG must continue. I think that is something that at some stage we may need to even revisit. I think that we need to look at the structure of the fees. We need to look at this model itself, and the notion that we must pursue this funding model based on the need to ensure the independence of the Auditor General. I don't think that we've got Chapter 9 institutions that are funded differently. And I think that those institutions, their independence, they haven't been undermined. In fact, they're very strong. So, and when I look at some of the projects that are being funded, I mean, that is a mandate of this committee to look at those and say, prioritize here. So the fee structure is very important. And finally, I want to support that the AG and the Accountant General consider to write off some of those where, I mean, the cost of collecting would be quite huge. Something's coming quickly into my head, Chair, that one of the things that we also should not encourage is the Auditor General and these municipalities and other entities fighting it out in courts. I think that these are organs of state. We need to find other ways and not encourage that to happen. So, Chair, those are my brief comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Montana. Honorable Vilakazi.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to you, Chair, and to all colleagues on the call, and thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask just a few questions. I noted that the outstanding debt has grown to 1.8 billion, but then in the same breath, it was mentioned, I thought I caught something about the fact that not all of it is over 90 days in outstanding. And so two questions. Firstly, I just wanted to find out, is all of this 1.8 billion now long-term debt or not? And secondly, what time frame is considered before debt is considered problematic? Is it 60 days? Is it 90 days? And so if that's the case, what exactly, if the municipalities and entities are still within the period that they can pay, they're allowed legally to still be outstanding. So what is the actual amount of outstanding debt then at this point in time? And I also wondered to myself, from both the NT and the AGSA, what can we do? What can be done to prevent the escalation in unpaid audit fees, as well as to these other statutory entities, so that we do not have to resort, as the last speaker was saying, we don't always have to resort to these strong arm measures of withholding equitable share or taking municipalities to court. What are the means that we could try, perhaps something different that hasn't been done before? And then I'm not sure if Mr. Khan referred to this in one of his slides, but I had thought to myself that banks are normally and financing institutions are normally at the front of liquidation processes. So any funds that are received from a liquidation process, banks are amongst the first to receive at the very least a share of these. And so I'm wondering if we are saying that we are writing off the outstanding debt from entities that are being liquidated, such as South African Express Airways, is it not possible to, in some way, have the Auditor General be amongst the first to be considered for at least a portion of whatever funds are raised from the liquidation process? The Honorable Suprathi referred to this next question of mine. But in fact, firstly, let me just ask about the lower budget for bad debts. And the presentation said that there could be two options. It could be that the AGSA anticipates higher income, or that there is possible risk of underestimation of the bad debt. I'm just wondering if the AGSA can clarify for us which is it and why is it that the budget is so low for this provision. And then higher than budgeted income is, of course, always welcome. However, it becomes problematic. It can become problematic if there is perennial under budgeting for income, and so that the actual ends up being higher than budgeted. It can show perhaps a failure to budget properly, because you ought to be able to be pretty accurate in your budgeting within, of course, certain error limits. So now I'm asking myself, and I'd like to know from the AGSA, firstly, what's responsible for the increased income? And secondly, is it not possible to foresee it so that you don't always have, I think it's between 6 and 12% higher than budget income? Is it not foreseeable so that you can be closer than that? And again, has been mentioned already, but what is the AG's response to calls that the fees are too high? And if this is a strong call from the auditees, what is the Auditor General's plan on this moving forward? Another one, I think the Honorable Suprathi might have commented on this, but the Section 23(1) consultation did not take place. Why did it not? And secondly, and this was a point that we raised even last week during the SIU DPCI meeting, is that if as an oversight body and as critical bodies such as the National Treasury and AGSA, if they themselves are not able to comply with legislation, I believe this is a constitutional mandate, it's a constitutional requirement. How, let me put it like this, you lose credibility with your auditees if you yourself are not being compliant. So why is it? Why is there this non-compliance in regard to the Section 23(1) consultation? And then finally, in line with Honorable Montana's point, I think it was, is there's a reputational risk to withholding equitable share. I agree with it. I think that you've got to do what you can when municipalities are being truant and show no sign of being interested in paying the Auditor General, and particularly in cases where there is a litany of mismanagement and bad financial oversight over funds. However, if we start withholding equitable share, that impacts service delivery. And there's a reputational risk there to both the National Treasury and the AGSA, and possibly more to the AGSA. How do these entities manage that reputational risk and the possible fallout that could come from this? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Vilakazi. Let me give Honourable King an opportunity.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, let me also take this opportunity to welcome and express my appreciation for the report. My first one is on coordination with AGSA and other entities. I would then like to know, Chair, is there a coordinated plan between Treasury, AGSA, and COGTA for dealing with these defaulting municipalities, especially those under administration? Then my second one, Chair, I would also like to know if has any disciplinary or legal action been taken against accounting officers who have failed to settle audit fees. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Mofokeng. Honourable members, there's been a few questions to the AGSA or directed to the AGSA. I will give the AGSA opportunity to briefly respond so that those important issues are not lost. But I do think, if it's possible, that we do have an engagement with the AGSA next week in our meeting, that we maybe get a more thorough briefing on those matters that have been raised for a response by the AGSA on the lack of consultation in terms of Section 23(1), the under budgeting for debt impairment, and the affordability of the audit fees. Those questions can then be responded to next week, but I will give the AGSA an opportunity if they do want to, and if the AG herself wants to briefly respond. Let me also just add my voice to what the Honourable Montana raised in terms of the equitable share. And to National Treasury, what always bothers me is the fact that, if I understand it correctly, equitable share is there not for operational expenditure of municipalities, but are there to be utilized to provide services to indigents. And that's the aim of equitable share. When we withhold equitable share because of debt, we in actual fact saying that equitable share should be used for operational expenditure, such as audit fees. And that seems actually promoting non-compliance or transgression of the MFMA in those terms. But that's my observation with regards to that, and I just want to echo what Honourable Montana said, that it's not very productive, especially in terms of service delivery to the poorest of the poor, to withhold equitable share, and it doesn't actually take us in the right direction in terms of service delivery. The Honourable Mente on the chat also asked with regards to the funding model, and I think it was raised in our first engagement with National Treasury as well, and it is an aspect that the committee is very interested in exploring, that if there's not other options to, for instance, appropriate the audit fees, that the AG still determines the audit fees in terms of the Public Audit Act, but that it's appropriated directly, and that it's not charged to an auditee, if that makes sense. And that's also what she is asking, because municipalities do not have the capacity to pay, and that equitable share that is then actually there to be utilized to provide water and electricity and services to the poorest of the poor is then used for audit fees. Is it not another way, whilst protecting the independence of the AGSA, so that it's not a budget that's passed, but still fees that are structured, is not another way of looking at it? And that's something that National Treasury will have to explore. So, Mr. Khan, that's also a question to you. And I'll give you an opportunity, and then an opportunity to the AGSA if they do want to briefly respond. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and thanks to the honourable members for those comments. Chair, there were 3 or 4, key points which I think I will address, and I know we've also do not have much time this morning. So the points around the equitable share, and I think yourself, Honourable Mente, Honourable Vilakazi, Honourable Montana, who's raised this, is that National Treasury and the Auditor-General, this journey is not a journey that has started recently. I think it's gone for a number of years. And obviously the soft touch and the soft approach, both in terms of trying to influence auditors to pay their audit fees and settle their outstanding obligations, did not happen. The only legal instrument that National Treasury had after National Treasury consulted both the Standing Committee as well as the letter we received from the Speaker of Parliament, was really this instrument. That was the only legal instrument we had at our disposal to actually deal and to really change and enforce the change in behavior around municipal debt for audit fees. And obviously, it wasn't taken lightly. There were a number of reminders, letters, and finally, the Minister of Finance then agreed because it was not just the Auditor General's fees, there were also payments around PAYE, which they would hold from salaries, and those payments over to SARS, the deduction of pension from employee salaries, not paying over to the pension fund. So obviously, there was a concern, and the minister then took a decision that he's going to enforce that particular legal instrument. But just to indicate, and I know there was a question around what are the other options, what are the other instruments? And what we've agreed with the Auditor General going forward is that National Treasury is very much involved in terms of the review of the municipal budget. And we asked the Auditor General that once they determine the audit fees for all municipalities, before the start of the financial year, they should pass that data and information to the National Treasury team. So the National Treasury, in the review of those budgets, and even before the councils can approve those budgets, the National Treasury can quite explicitly indicate that you've either under budgeted for the audit fees or you've not catered for it. And I think that's a key or an underlying reason why when they don't budget for audit fees, we then see down the line what has really emerged over the years, non-payment, delays in payment. And I think we are looking, and we will work with the Auditor General to see how that can really support them in dealing with this. The point around the consultation, it is an important part, and obviously, in the event that Treasury, as a department, is not consulted, it becomes very difficult for us to then come in and say, or come in and really try to then recover fees from a budget that hasn't really been consulted. It was important for us to highlight it, but really in the spirit of us working collaboratively with the Auditor General and to really improve those processes, because the more we consulted, the better understanding we have of the audit fee model, the better we can support the Auditor General. And it's really being raised in that spirit of collaboration and to really support the Auditor General in fulfilling that particular mandate. The variances, obviously, I think the Auditor General will be better placed to respond to that. With us not having the relevant insights from a budget perspective, it would be very difficult for us to speculate on what were the reasons for those under budgets. But I'm sure in any budget system, and especially when you budget for audit fees, there are a number of factors. There's hours you need to look at from an audit in terms of auditing those institutions. But more importantly, those hours are allocated based on the risk profile or based on the audit risk profile of those institutions. So there's a number of factors that underlies what an audit fee should be and what the audit hours. So when there's an increase in the revenue, it's important that those underlying factors are elevated so that it's quite clear between Treasury and ourselves, between Treasury and the Auditor General on what those are. The 1.8 billion, Honorable Vilakazi, it has increased from 1.3 to 1.8 billion. You'll see there's a spike in the provincial debt book. But generally, the provincial departments, the risk profile is a lot lower than most municipalities because they do have appropriated funds, and I'm sure that's purely more of a timing issue, and hence the point that there's R1 billion in the current debtors book that was borrowed in June and July, respectively. The Public Audit Act is also quite clear that all audit fees must be settled within 30 days from receipt of invoice. So that those are the that's quite clear. And I think the Auditor-General, both in terms of the engagement letters, in terms of their strategic audit plans, to institutions are quite clear that this must be settled timelessly. Just in terms of the liquidation process, I think the recommendation is that not that the Auditor General writes it off immediately. They must engage the liquidation process and recover whatever they can through the liquidation process, and any amounts not recovered through the liquidation process can then be written off. Honorable Mofokeng raised a question around coordinated plan with the Auditor General, National Treasury, and COGTA. So there is a broader, in fact, I'm sure the members of the Standing Committee will be aware that there's an interministerial committee for local government that dealing with a range of issues. And one of it is around the unfunded budgets. And the unfunded budgets, if we don't solve that in local government, and to the point, Chair, and to yourself and Honourable Mention, one of the key issues underlying all these matters that we're seeing now, which is really the sort of the outcome of what is really that municipalities adopt unfunded budgets. And if we can improve that, and obviously there's the municipal sphere has, and I think the council has the authority to adopt whatever budget they want. What we are seeing more and more is that even when there are recommendations around unfunded budgets, some of these recommendations are taken seriously, some are not. And what National Treasury is doing together with COGTA and as part of the broader IMC is to see with the reforms around the MFMA, how could National Treasury have a stronger enforcing arm that in the event municipalities don't adopt unfunded budgets, what will that mean? And that's something that's part of the broader reforms. But just to indicate to you, Honourable Chair, I mean, the equitable share was a measure as last resort. It was the biggest gun within the arsenal of National Treasury. And unfortunately, because of the behavior and the non-payments across the board, not just to the Auditor General, the Minister was forced to use that. It does have an impact on service delivery. I mean, it's quite clear. And until there's a change in behavior and a change in the tone in how these institutions conduct their businesses, it's very difficult. But Chair, I think those comments are well noted. We, as this team, as the Office of the Accountant General, we will continuously engage our intergovernmental relations teams who are really responsible for municipal budgets, working with the Auditor General to see how we can then support them down this road. Chair, I'd like to pause at this point, but if there is any questions that the members feel I haven't responded, I'm happy to come in.
Thank you very much for the response, Mr. Khan. Do appreciate. AG, can I give you an opportunity for a brief response, or do you want to stand it over to next week?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. I'd appreciate just a brief moment to respond to a couple of matters. I want to start by thanking the honourable members of SCOAG for staying on this matter, because I think it certainly does support the AGSA in maintaining its viability and independence. And certainly I will confirm that it is evident for all of us that the partnership between ourselves and National Treasury has just been enhanced over the action and the consistency of attention that SCOAG has paid to this. I just want to highlight a couple of things so that we leave with a very clear idea of how we take the conversation forward, certainly from the team I lead. There is a matter that has been raised about the Section 23(1) compliance. As I understand it, that consultation has happened as a matter of course for many years now. It may well be that there is a particular appetite to engage differently, and I think it's helpful that Mr. Khan has indicated that he would certainly like some detailed briefing on how that sort of consultation might happen. But I want to give, as I sit here, the honourable members of SCOEC that as an institution, we remain committed to ensuring that we operate within the boundaries of what the law entails, and certainly in this instance we have done so. It may well be that there is a particular appetite that we have not lived up to, and we will certainly engage with the Accountant General to ensure that we meet his need for the nature of consultation he would like. And ultimately, it's that we all want the same things. We want certainty of how the audit fees are arrived at. We want certainty as to how all the auditees are going to meet their obligations to actually meet to pay the audit fees across. There's a matter about the audit fee affordability, and Honourable Chair, it's a good thing that we have got an upcoming engagement with SCOEC on the annual report, as well as another one on the budget and the strat plan for the period going forward. I would like to ask that when we have that engagement, we as an audit team be given, as an audit AGSA, be given the opportunity to give you that detail of how we arrive at audit fees going forward, but also to account to you on how we arrived at the fees for the year under review, and exactly how we would have arrived at numbers that are actual vis-a-vis budget. Once again, the conversation on the budgeting issues I've taken note of, and we'll certainly make sure that that forms part of the feedback and the engagement that we have with SCOEC when we meet on the budget. There is a matter that I think was flagged. I just want to highlight that audit fees, as Mr. Khan says, are engaged upon with auditees, and they are determined based on the risk profile, the audit program, the matters that we have to cover in terms of the audit directive, the provisions of Section 20 on financial statements, performance information and compliance. And then they are also determined by the readiness of the auditee that we engaged with. Over time, this area of audit fee affordability has enjoyed a lot of attention from Team AGSA, and will certainly be available to provide that feedback. When we talk about audit fees, there's the programs, yes, and there are some internal inefficiencies which we've worked extremely hard to push back against and to manage very differently. And I think we've made major gains in that regard within AGSA. And then, of course, there's a limitation of the manual processes at our auditees and the manual processes within the AGSA. And as the honourable members of SCOEC are aware, we have been on a journey to make sure that we have the cash resources available to invest in our digital transformation program, which has been the subject of engagement with SCOEC. When we come to the discussion on the annual report, we'll give feedback on how we have deployed the resources we have. We've been able to build cash because we needed to make sure that when we enter into these big investment projects that will make us more efficient and effective in the future, we have the cash resources available. So we have managed to build a healthy cash balance, but it's because we are determined to make sure that when we start our investment program, we're not going to be irresponsible and end up having to delay it because we've not planned for the cash outflows. But we'll make sure that we give you that feedback. When we see the audit revenues of AGSA increasing, please remember that there's also a regular increase in the number of auditees we take on. So the analysis on the revenue changes must also take that into account. It's not just that we are increasing audit fees at every auditee by 12%. It is indeed often about the fact that we've taken on more auditees, but we'll make sure that we give that feedback in terms of where are we spending the hours, how many auditees we are taking on every single year, and what determines that growth. But I would not like the honourable members of SCOEC to walk away with the sense that we radically increase audit fees at audit level on a regular basis. When we come to talk to SCOEC, we will also deal with the difference between the surplus retention and the cash retention, because much of the surplus that we retain is not cash backed. So we have had to slow down our investment program to make sure we do have the cash. So we have the surplus retained, in terms of the debits and credits, let's call it, and the ability to use it, but we still have to make sure we get the cash. So once we get the cash, and then we are able to plan on how we're going to deploy those resources. But on the whole, Honourable Chair, I wanted to say that the funding model of the AGSA has served us well. The bugbear has been the ability to collect. And I'm glad that we will be able to keep engaging with Treasury and, importantly, with the guidance and support of the legislators through the work of the honourable members of SCOAG. The model is best practice in the world. We have, as you know, been rated by the World Bank as one of 2 supreme audit institutions that enjoys full independence, and that's one of the areas where we do. So when we start to adjust for the experiences we've had over time in implementing this model and trying to figure out what we strengthen, we must also remember to ensure that we uphold those very key principles. I welcome the engagement, Honourable Chair. I thank you for the opportunity to add my voice onto this critical conversation. I just wanted to make sure that we don't walk away with the sense that there's non-compliance. There isn't. And I don't want us to walk away with the sense that there are budget problems. There aren't. And I also want to undertake that we'll have a detailed conversation with SCOAG when we deal with the annual report and then subsequently with the budget. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, AG, for that. And I think that is important, especially in terms of the consultation and Section 23(1) that you have explained. And we will have the thorough engagement on the annual report and also on the budget and strat plan when we get to those meetings in the fourth term. Thank you very much, AG, and thank you very much to the Accountant-General, to National Treasury, and let's welcome the engagement and all the inputs and participation of members in this very important matter. We are behind schedule, honourable members, but as it was mentioned, this is a very important issue and an important engagement that we had to give sufficient time to. We can then, honourable members, move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the complaint. And if I can just remind honourable members where we are, we received the complaint. The complaint was actually received in the previous and raised in the previous administration in the 6th Parliament. The then SCOAG dealt with the complaint, resolved on the complaint, and there was also processes within the AGSA where there was an investigation report and also a legal opinion on the matter that served before the then SCOAG, and it was resolved upon. The complainant then wrote to the former speaker in the previous administration complaining that his complaint was not dealt with thoroughly. And he also then referred the matter to the public protector. I was under the impression, honourable members, that he referred the complaint, the substance of the complaint, to the public protector. He actually, in effect, also complained with regards to how SCOAG dealt with the complaint. And I'll get to that matter now. We then received the complaint again at the beginning of this year. The complainant wrote to SCOAG and again submitted an affidavit and raised the whole matter once again. We had a few engagements on this. We received feedback or a report from the DAG on the matter, how it was dealt with. We were furnished with the legal opinion and also with the investigation report. And we also then obtained a legal opinion from the Parliamentary Legal Services with regards to what our position should be and how the previous committee dealt with it. You would remember that the advice was that we must apply our minds afresh because it was said that it might be that the previous committee did not officially communicate the resolution on the complaint with the complainant. We then said we'll apply our minds again and we'll resolve on the matter. In the meantime, honourable members, we did receive last week a report by the Public Protector on that complaint that I referred to, where the Public Protector then scrutinised how the former SCOAC dealt with the complaint and if there was any inefficiencies. The report was circulated to members, and you would note that the Public Protector resolved that there was no wrongdoing, that the complaint was dealt with thoroughly. And I think that changes the position to a large extent, because there's that finality or that resolution by a Chapter 9 institution on how Parliament dealt with the complaint, and that there were no inefficiencies from the perspective of the Public Protector, which is important to inform us on the matter. We can discuss the matter. I'm not going to, National Treasury is welcome to leave the meeting, and they are not obliged to stay. I'm not going to release the AGSA unless they feel they do want to step out, but I don't think it's necessary. It's an open meeting, and it's a matter that we just have to resolve on. I don't think there's any legal basis to have to excuse anybody from the meeting, unless anybody differs from my opinion on that. But honourable members, you are welcome to give your opinions on the matter. You have had all the information and had time to scrutinise the information. And what we must resolve is if we want to reopen the matter or not, and if we can reaffirm the conclusion that the previous SCOAC came to, which was that there is no basis for the complaint, and that the inefficiencies that there were in terms of certain matters have already been dealt with. It was, and we are going to get a report on the progress to address those internal inefficiencies that were identified in the legal opinion at that stage. We'll get that briefing next week by the DAG, but it's two separate matters to a large extent. There were certain, even the review of the Public Audit Act played a role in addressing some of those matters that were unclear and that could lead to that were problematic. So those issues were addressed, and we must resolve how we, if we can reaffirm that decision, inform the complainant as such, and resolve officially, as that was one of the areas of concern, that there was no official resolution on the matter, and that the complainant was not informed. But we did receive, or we could apply our minds to the full spectrum of this complaint. Any inputs, honourable members? Any suggestions on how we take this further and how we can resolve on this matter? Honourable Scrati, thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me begin by saying that this report provided by the Public Protector really aids us as a committee in getting finality. As I reviewed the minutes ahead of preparing for this meeting here, the conundrum we were faced with, and as you rightly pointed out, was whether we reopen this matter for a fresh investigation, or whether we deem it to be adequately dealt with in the last administration, except what we did note, there was insufficient communication by the SCOAG of the 6th administration, both to Mr. Mabaso and I think as well as to National Assembly, of how the matter was dealt with. And I think that's where we were caught wanting. But I think this report, maybe before you can just provide clarity, were we anticipating this report, Honorable Chairperson? So that is why I was just wondering, where is our internal communication? Because this report we were sitting and tasking ourselves, and we are not experts. We are public servants, and to reopen an investigation and waste public funds, and I use the word waste because that's what it would have been. So I would like to understand, where did this report come from? Because we need to understand the ecosystem, and then were we not aware of this kind of support that is available to us, that as we ask for a legal opinion, could we not have asked for the public protector opinion? So I'm not understanding how this report came in, and therefore, just for our understanding, so we know it's a tool available to us as members of SCOAG that we can call upon. So I think for me, this report gives clarity that the question whether we should reopen the matter or not has been answered, and the public protector is very clear when the public protector says having regard to the evidence received and for the reasons advanced herein above, the public protector is unable to pursue the matter any further as the issue of investigation is unsubstantiated. The matter is regarded as finalized, and the public protector shall proceed to close the file. So I think this gives us clarity, Honorable Chairperson. I don't think we need to deliberate too much. I'm happy to support that the matter be considered to be sufficiently dealt with. Safe to say that, as we had agreed in the last meeting, we do bring this matter up to National Assembly. We do provide a report that we received this complaint and how we managed to resolve it, and we take it to National Assembly and we close the matter. And of course, we inform Mr. Mabaso of the outcome of the findings. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Sukrati. Let me try to provide clarity on the Public Protector report. As I said, and it was mentioned in our first engagements on this complaint, that we were made aware that the complainant also laid a complaint with the Public Protector. But I was under the impression, and maybe it was a mistaken impression, that he laid a complaint with the Public Protector with regards to the substance of the complaint. I did not know that he laid a complaint with the Public Protector on how Parliament dealt with his complaint. So I was not aware of that, and I don't know if anybody else was aware of the substance or the contents of the complaint that he laid with the Public Protector. We were only made aware of the fact that there's a Public Protector complaint that is being processed by the Public Protector, and that the outcome is not known yet. And it was actually a coincidence that the Public Protector finalized the matter and sent the report last week. I think it was last week. Zubaida can assist me. Last week or the week before that, but it was within the last 2 weeks that we received the email from the Public Protector's office with the finalization of this matter, and I, for the first time, saw that this complaint was with regards to how SCOAG and Parliament dealt with the complaint, and that assists us greatly. And I do agree with you. If we knew that, it might have assisted us not to even that we didn't have had the need to get a legal opinion from Parliamentary Legal Services, but await the outcome from the Public Protector, and we could have asked to speedily process that matter. But be it as it may, we did now receive the outcome, and the outcome is, as you also put it, and the last paragraph of that report is very clear, on the matter is finalized and that there's no evidence that SCOAC did not deal with the complaint efficiently. Let me give the Honourable Marais an opportunity, followed by the Honourable Montana.
Thank you, Chairperson. I support the finalization of this and accept the report as tabled by the Public Protector, and that we can step off this case now. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Marais. Appreciate. Honourable Montana.
Thanks, Chair. I think, excuse me. Thanks very much. I suggest that you need to capture it differently, though, Chair. Whilst agreeing with what you're saying, the issue is that you recall that there were two things. There was I think that you are closing one part of the complaint based on the assurance that you say we've received. But you remember, in terms of the mandate of SCOAC, in terms of its oversight over the business of the Auditor-General's office, you recall that we had the briefing by the audit committee from the AG itself, and I think it was largely also by the Deputy Auditor General in terms of improving those controls and all of those things. So my view, Chair, is that we should say two things. I think that the one part is what you've summarized and what the other colleagues have suggested, but I think that the second part should be stating that we'll then follow up, because I think that there were a number of control issues that needed to be sorted out, and we needed to get sufficient assurance of that. So that is our mandate as a parliamentary committee, and I don't think that it would be. We should only close it. We should close one part, but keep on retaining, or rather monitoring the issues about some of the issues about the controls that needed to be strengthened and improved. So that part must remain under our radar. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Montana. I do agree with you, and we have this scheduled meeting next week to get a thorough report on the progress made on addressing those internal control inefficiencies that were identified during this complaint and the processing of the complaint in the investigation report, the legal opinion, and then also by SCOAC and the previous SCOAC as well. So we'll get that report, and that's not something that we'll step away from. But the complaint itself, if I can summarize once again, honourable members, as I see it, we are satisfied by the Public Protector's opinion that SCOAC did fulfill its mandate to deal with the complaint in the previous Parliament. We as a committee did apply our minds to the substance and the evidence of the complaint. We went through the legal opinions, firstly the affidavit by the complainant. We went through the allegations. We went through the investigation reports, the legal opinion, and also our own legal opinion. And we satisfied ourselves, and if I speak on behalf of myself, that there were certain internal control deficiencies, which is being addressed and has already been addressed, and that we as a committee will take forward to get report back on and satisfy that the oversight on those inefficiencies is done. But with regards to any transgressions by the AG, we are satisfied that there were no transgressions and that the complaint is without merit in that regard, and that the internal control inefficiencies has been addressed and will be addressed, and we will do oversight over that. That is my summary of it, and how I feel we should resolve on the matter, that we did not only accept the previous committee's outcome, but that we did apply our minds. We looked at everything, and we are satisfied. We are Parliament of the people. People may complain, are entitled to complain, and to bring their complaints to Parliament, and we did give sufficient, apply our minds sufficiently to satisfy ourselves on this issue. There has been the proposal put forward, I think, by the Honourable Sobrati, also supported by the Honourable Barre and the Honourable Montana, that we finalise the matter in this regard. Is there any objection to us handling it in this regard or in this way? None. We can then resolve that we will then draft a report on this, so that we do table it in the National Assembly officially, and that we then also inform the complainant as such. Everybody satisfied? Thank you very much, honourable members, and that we could finalise this matter. It's been coming a very long time, and it is good that we can have finalisation also because of the integrity of the AGSA, so that there is no hanging complaints and loose ends in that regard. I think we dealt with the matter in a very responsible way. Honourable members, then on the next matter, it's the an item on our agenda. It's the oversight to the Free State and Northwest, the oversight that we delegated 2 members to attend, and our support staff also attended the beta, and there is a committee report on that. It was circulated to members. We're not going to go through it. It's actually the members that were on the oversight that can give us direction on if they support it. I've been informed that they do agree with the content of the report, and that the committee can officially support it. But I will give the Honourable Mwale an opportunity to brief us briefly on the oversight, and so that we can also have that report. Honourable Mwale.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Briefly, I would want to touch on a few things. Chair, I can say it without any shadow of doubt that issues that were picked up in these 3 provinces that we've had our oversight were properly ventilated yesterday when honorable members debated the issue of non-submission of financial statements by municipalities to the AG. So I would really highlight a few things that were commonly identified as issues in these different municipalities when we held our meeting. Chair, the joint committee was Parliament, it was provincial legislatures, it was the Premier, it was the MEC for COGTA, it was committees of legislature that are responsible for COGTA and some for SCOPA. So I'll highlight the common issues that were picked up in these 3 provinces. So, Chair, what we've observed during the oversight is that one of the issues that leads to non-performance of these municipalities that were observed is the political instability that was observed, Chair, on many municipalities as a result of coalition government in their councils. So there's serious instability in some of the municipalities to a point that some have 2 mayors, 2 municipal managers, 2 speakers, and all sorts of things. And Chair, there were also issues of maladministration, non-adherence to MFMA and other legislation by the accounting officers and by the executive management of the municipality. And also, Chair, it was the incapacity of the MPEC committees that are responsible for oversight over municipalities and that are responsible for investigating fruitless and wasteful expenditure and that are also responsible for recommending consequence management that would be instituted against those who are found to be the ones who are perpetrating or who are escalating this misconducts that were observed, or that are observed in the municipalities. Chair, you would find that the MPEC is really not sure what is it that they need to do, number one, and two, you'd find that there's going to be changes of the impact chairpersons and there's no continuity and there's no handing over, so you'd find that your FWE keeps on escalating, keeps on growing and growing, and it's never investigated and no one is held accountable for that. And also, it was highlighted that the accounting officers are not preventing as they are required by the Act to ensure that they prevent UIFWE from escalating. And also, some of the municipalities don't have disciplinary boards, some they do have, but they're not functional. Chair, other thing that was highlighted or that was observed is the over-reliance on consultants. Some municipalities in the Northwest, they go and even pay about 54 million for consultants that prepare financial statements, that do their EFR, Chair, and we really stress the point that there's no value for money, because when you look at the performance of these municipalities and they look at the quality of the financial statements that gets to be sent to the Auditor-General as compared to the amount spent on these consultants, really, there's no add up, and also there's no value, because AG sometimes would just put a disclaimer. AG would require that they do so many corrections on financials that they've spent so much amounts of money to prepare. So you would end up with the municipality spending such an amount of money on consultants, but unable to pay the audit fees. So, and also there's no skills transfer from the consultant. So you'll end up with a consultant that has been working with the municipality for years, and the team, the finance team in the municipality is unable to do the work. So, Chair, that's one of the things that we observed during, and also the high vacancy rate on senior management post. A lot of senior managers in the municipalities are acting. When you hold them accountable, they'll tell you, no, it's the previous one that was responsible at that time. So those are the issues also. And the issues of corruption and the infights within the political leaders. You'd find that some municipalities, the speaker is not working well with the mayor, and then they will hold the whole municipality at ransom, and the incapacity in the finance team. We even further ask that what is it that the consultants are doing that the municipality is not doing that attracts people who can do the work? Because if you get a consultant and you have someone to come and do your work as a finance team, then why not have those people who are at the consultant working for the municipality so that we can execute they can do the job and we don't have to pay so much money for the consultants. So those are where basically, Chair, one of the issues, and the line of payment of audit fees, non-payment of ESCOM fees, some municipalities, they even don't pay pension funds to the fund, Chair, and some major creditors, so they end up with many days that are owing on creditors, and they have to incur immense amount of interest that are fruitless and wasteful expenditures. Some municipalities are with liquidity problems and solvency issues. So, Chair, the recommendations were from the chairperson of the joint committees was we are going to have this joint report that is going to be tabled in Parliament, and it will be tabled to Speaker with the recommendation as to how to cap the issue of the local government, and also individual committees committed also to even go back to some of the municipalities to further conduct oversight and hold them accountable, and also institute some legal processes where necessary. And also, yeah, that is it, Chair. Let me stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Mwali, for the feedback. And let me also thank you and, in our absence, the Honourable Spies, for representing the committee on these oversights. I know the Honourable Spies even occurred an injury whilst on these oversight visits. And I do appreciate, and I think we all, if I can speak on behalf of the committee, appreciate your hard work. I know it was exhausting meetings up until 2:00 in the morning, and a lot of time that was spent there, and under difficult circumstances, and also a depressing type of picture that one gets when one engages with these local government entities and with municipalities. If I can, from my side, just ask you, Honourable Mwali, in terms of, if one takes, for instance, Maluti Apufong in the Free State, that is one of the repeat offenders in terms of non-submission of annual financial statements, and they, up until now, have not submitted their annual financial statements. Did the scrutiny of them in particular show anything? You referred to consultants. Could you pick up if they use consultants to prepare their financial statements? And if so, why are they then non-compliant and non-submitting their financial statements? And the same with Mafube in the Free State. They are under a provincial intervention, Section 139, since 2017 already, for 8 years. How can it be that you scrutinize and get any answers how they can be non-compliant in terms of submission of annual financial statements if they have a provincial intervention team there that should be taking the lead in terms of especially compliance with the MFMA? Can you assist me?
No, thank you so much, Chairperson. On those two issues, yes, we dealt with these two municipalities, and we also picked up the fact that these municipalities, yes, they use consultants, but some of the issues that were picked up is the fact that some of these municipalities don't even operate using an accounting system. Therefore, they don't keep records. Because they don't keep records, even if they use consultants, there's no records to prepare financial statements. There's no backup to what work that they are doing. In that way, then they end up deciding that they're not going to submit financial statements. You would find that the MM and the CFO are colluding and not operating on an accounting system. So if they are operating on outside the accounting system, there's definitely not going to be a non-financial statement at the end of the period. And number two, Chair, what we highlighted and we strongly mentioned was the fact that there's a lack of oversight from the side of the provincial leadership, simply because these matters are historic. It's not just matters of the prior report. It's matters of, it's a situation where an entity or a municipality is not sending financial statement for the past 10 years. And you're thinking no one has been held accountable for that. But there are accounting officers there that have been with the municipalities, but they're not submitting and they are not held accountable for it. So, Chair, we stressed the point that the oversight responsibility actually stops with the provincial leadership. That's supposed to be, when intervening into these issues, must strongly take decisions where necessary as a result of those who are not complying with the regulations. And Chair, and then the chairperson then said he gives them 3 months. They must come back with what they've done in 3 months as a result of what we picked up there, and they are going to continuously come and submit or come and account to Parliament Portfolio Committee on what actions they've been taken on those who are not complying with the regulations every 3 months, so that we strengthened the oversight responsibility, because there's a lack from the side of the provincial leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Mwali. I think, honourable members, we must maybe consider if the 3 months will take us to almost next year, but to, in the beginning of next year, maybe have a engagement specifically with the Free State provincial leadership, with the MEC of COCTA, and with them specifically on the non-compliance in terms of submission of annual financial statements and the delays that it caused, so that we specifically, as a committee, also get direct follow-up or feedback on those matters. If you agree with that, that can be one of our areas or one of our items that we can schedule for that term next year, so that we can take this issue further, because as the Honourable Mwali points out, it is an issue that, especially in the Free State, with those 2 municipalities, are something that has over a decade. It's those delays and non-compliance, and there's a problem with the provincial oversight and holding those municipalities then to account, and we can assist, I think, the delays by also engaging directly with the provincial executive, if you agree with that, and we can consider that. Any questions to Honourable Mwali, or any inputs, honourable members? I don't see any hands. Can we agree that we support the joint report that has been tabled?
There is a question, Chair, in the chat room from Honourable Mofokeng.
I see. Honourable Mofokeng asks, were there any unfunded mandates or budget shortfalls discussed, particularly in distressed municipalities? Honourable Mwali.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just saw the question now. Yes, there are unfunded mandates, and the committee properly ventilated the displeasure in adopting unfunded mandates, and there are definitely budget shortfalls that were witnessed in those distressed municipalities. Yes, they were. Majority of the municipalities are adopting unfunded budgets. And they are making it a norm to adopt them. It's like it's okay to do something wrong, when the executive knows exactly that needs to be done. It's like it's okay to do something wrong. So yes, there were unfunded mandates that were adopted by municipalities that we held meetings with. Yes.
Thank you, Honourable Mwali. Colleagues, can we then agree to the joint report? Any objections that we support that report? No objections? Then we will give us our support, and we are included in that report as we participated, and we will also continue these joint efforts with other committees to strengthen the oversight. But I think also that direct engagement of our own will also be fruitful. Colleagues, that brings us to the end of the meeting. We are a little over time, but we are in time for mini plenaries. So We did, I think, manage the time well. Thank you very much to all the members for your participation and your valuable inputs. And we will have our next meeting next week, where we get the feedback from the DAG, then also on the progress made on those internal control inefficiencies. And we will also adopt our strat plan then at that meeting. And we did discuss last night the way forward, or the way of dealing with that. And I do remind members to submit written inputs into the draft strat plan by coming Tuesday, and that we will circulate and the integrated draft strat plan then afterwards, and consider it and adopt it at next week Friday's meeting. Let me also thank the support staff for all your work behind the scenes and for making these meetings possible, for assisting us, and thank you very much for that. Honourable members, that concludes our meeting. Have a good weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.